It is Friday morning and we're back with the big issue on Capital FM 99.7. My guest this morning is Mr. Thabo Kawana, who is the UPND Alliance Media Director. As previously said by my announcer, we will be discussing a wide range of issues regarding recent happenings in the political sphere and the general governance of the country. I am your host, Chanda, and welcome to the program. Welcome, Kawana.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful for the invitation, and it's good to be here.
Fantastic. This is Capital FM on 99.7. The lines are open throughout the show, so please get in touch with us. You can give us a call or send us a WhatsApp message on 0761 997 997 for comments, questions, contributions, and general inquiries. You can send us an email on marketing@capitalfm997.com. On all social media, we have you can reach us on @capitalfm997.com. We are streaming live on our website. Just log on to capitalfm997.com and click on Listen Live. If you're on the go, you can listen to us by downloading the Radio Garden app and the Mingotainment app and search for Capital FM 997. We'll be back after a short break and get straight into the details of our discussion.
You are now tuned into The Big Issue, the program that gets under the skin of the story. Here now is your presenter.
This is Chanda with The Big Issue on capitalfm997.com. My guest this morning is Mr. Thabo Kawana, the Media Director for the UPND Media Alliance. And today we are discussing various issues concerning the governance of the country as well as the run-up to the elections. Mr. Kawana, welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
Only 6 days remain before Zambia votes on August 12th. How have been the campaigns thus far, and how geared is the UPND Alliance for the polls?
Well, let me start by apologizing to your listeners that my voice is hoarse and cracky and almost disappearing. But, it has not been easy to get rid of the PF. We had to do a whole lot of talking throughout the country, and I think the campaigns have taken a toll of our voice. But however, we shall try to project it as much as we can.
Yes, of course.
Coming to your question, it's like one of those where when you ask somebody, how are you? And the simple answer is always, I'm fine, thanks, and you. Even when you have a headache, you still say, I'm fine, thanks, and you. So when you ask, how are the campaigns?
Yes.
Naturally, it's for me to say, well, they're okay. But they're not okay. We've had a tough campaign period.
Yes.
We have hardly campaigned because we had to face 3 mountains along the line. We had to face the Patriotic Front as a political opponent and political party. We had to face the Electoral Commission of Zambia, which is supposed to be a referee and facilitating for elections for all the players involved.
Yes.
But they have seemingly been working in cahoots with the PF and working against us and taking unfair decisions against us, which I hope we'll talk about as we go on in the program.
Yes.
We have also been hampered by the Zambia police, whom I'm almost tempted to call the PF police, but I won't. The Zambia police that have done all their best to ensure that we do not campaign. Our leaders are not allowed to campaign. And in most particular, the presidential candidate for the alliance, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, has been stopped from campaigning, like literally stopped, where when he even goes to a district or town or province, the police basically just say, you can't come here. You can't do things like that.
Okay. Interesting. So why do you think the road to 12/08/2021 has been difficult for you? Why do you think the PF and the ECZ are in cahoots? Obviously, as well as the police.
Well, the idea is to stop UPND Alliance from forming government. In politics, after 5 years, you go back to the people. And that is why we always emphasize that the power lies with the people. What you win is not power. What you win is an opportunity to exercise authority on behalf of the people who retain the power. And that is why every 5 years you go before the people, you kneel before the people, you ask them for a mandate to either continue being in office or get an opportunity to get into office. But the power remains with the people. So these have been in cahoots working against us to stop us from getting into office. And to do that, they must stop us from talking to the people who are the owners of the power.
All right. Let's explore this much further. A short while ago, both the PF and UPND were suspended for inciting violence. Now, barely 2 weeks after lifting the suspension, your party has again been barred, this time indefinitely, from campaigning in Kanyama constituency. This, of course, follows the death of 2 Patriotic Front members allegedly murdered by persons deemed to be UPND members. Please enlighten me on what really happened, and I would like to have your comments on the suspension.
Yes, and it is good you've asked it like that, because then it gives an opportunity to sort of illustrate when we say that the ECZ is working in cahoots with the PF.
Yes.
Number one, 2 people died in Kanyama as a result of electoral violence. Regrettable.
Yes.
Extremely regrettable. The loss of life can never be tolerated, no matter the circumstances, especially under political circumstances. It must never be. And therefore, it is regretted, and we condemn the act, we condemn the violence in the strongest terms possible. What happened? We have camps in various locations, even within Kanyama. And what the PF cadres did was to go and ambush our camp. But when they went to our camp, they found that our people were not there because they were out in the field. So the camp was like deserted, or it didn't have people there. Mm-hmm. Now remember that these camps are houses of members that we turn into camps.
Yes.
Therefore, they are within the neighborhood and surrounded by neighbors. Mm-hmm. When the PF cadres went there and they found there was nobody, they decided to ransack the area, basically to steal the food. You know, PF cadres are hungry characters. This they can't deny. You are aware of the traditional ceremony that was there in Chongwe, and they went there and ransacked the place and stole the food. You know, they're very embarrassing. They're very embarrassing and hungry characters. So they went to steal the food at our camp now. And the neighbors said, you can't do that. This is your colleague's camp. You are not welcome there, and the owners are not there. Can you leave? So a fracas ensued. Yes. And in the process, they were defeated by the people within the neighborhood. And that's how they went. Now, when they went away, they went to their place, their so-called area. There's a place called Kamugodi. That is where, like, the thugs congregate, and that's where, you know, criminality takes place. And Zambia police is aware about this area, but they do nothing. That place even has characters that have the audacity to detain people there. Illegal detentions.
Yes.
They went and regrouped, came with about 6 busloads of thugs to come and attack at our camp.
Yes.
And attack the neighborhood. So a fight ensued between the ordinary citizens and residents of Kanyama and the busloads, the 6 busloads of those thugs.
Yes. And
a fight ensued, and it pushed now away from our secretariat.
Yes.
And towards the other side. So the fight now was taking place in what you would call, if you're going to look at the UPND secretariat, the UPND camp and the PF camp,
yes,
you would call the place where the fight took place as a no man's land.
Middle ground.
Yes, middle ground, thank you. So the fight took place there, and in the process, 2 lives were lost. One of the people that was killed is actually a UPND member, and not just a member, but an official, Mr. Chingangu.
One of the 2 people.
One of the 2 people. Mr. Chingangu is not only a UPND member, but a UPND official.
Okay.
So Mr. Chingangu and another PF member were killed in the process. Now, when that happens, the news starts first with the police claiming, first the PF claiming that 2 of their members have been killed.
Yes.
When it's one theirs, one ours. The police pick it up and they also claim 2 PF members have been killed. Then the ECZ also picks it up and says 2 PF members have been killed. And then it is, the narrative now is driven that they've been killed by UPND. They weren't killed by UPND. They were killed by members of the public who got into a fierce fight with the PF cadres in what one would best describe as mob justice. But we have to await police investigation to give us an official position. Police promised to investigate the matter.
Yes.
And what surprised all of us is that ECZ came up and said, we shall do our own investigation. And we wondered, this is a case of murder.
Yes.
What has it to do with the Electoral Commission of Zambia? It is not in their province to begin to investigate murder. But within a short period of time, God knows what investigation they carried out.
Yes.
Then they come out and they suspend us like we are the culprits. So at what point did they find that the UPND is guilty? At what point did they find that the people who died were killed by the UPND? So that tells you that the Electoral Commission of Zambia is working in cahoots with the Patriotic Front, because before the pronouncement of the Electoral Commission of Zambia, the PF mentioned that UPND must be suspended.
Okay.
And after the pronouncement of the PF,
Yes.
ECZ implements that the pronouncement. And without shame, I heard the spokesperson being asked, how did you come to the conclusion? No, we were told. So how can the Electoral Commission base their decision on hearsay, on rumors, on impeccacy? How do they come and start making decisions like that? Therefore, it is a foregone conclusion that the decision that was taken by the Electoral Commission of Zambia was not only irrational, but it was an emotional decision, it was ill-timed, and very premature.
All right. So at this point,
excuse me.
all right. So at this point, has it been officially established that Mr. Chingangu is a UPND member, officially by the police? Has it been established that he's a UPND member, not the PF? Have they come back to you and reported that we want to correct the misconception which has been put out in the public that one of the 2 who actually passed away was a UPND member? And then secondly, how did you establish that the people who ransacked your camp were actually PF?
Well, the people that ransacked the camp were PF because they are non-PF, and they came from the PF camp.
All right.
Okay? And Mr. Chingangu is our member. Now, whether they claim or not, bottom line remains that Mr. Chingangu is our member because he's not just a member, but an official within our party, was an official within our party ranks and file. That is why, even when you follow through the media and you look at the times that the leaders have gone to their funeral house, the PF leaders, chairman, given, Rubinda, and so on and so forth, all of them have only gone to one funeral house.
Okay.
But not to the other. That is because it's not their funeral. But you know, PF can claim anything, including a funeral, that it is theirs, when in fact it is not. And this speaks to the fact that it is a narrative that they wanted and want the nation to follow and believe. But the bottom line remains that we did not do that. But we are being punished for something that we didn't do. Just like in Sioma, there was a fracas between the PF candidate and the independent candidate. But when the police are dealing with the matter, and ECZ is dealing with the matter, they are mentioning the UPND. And we wonder, why are you mentioning us? The people fighting are the independent and the PF. But you just have this insatiable appetite to always mention the UPND. But we don't mind. Too little, too late. It's 6 days from now. All this shall come to pass. It is done. It is over. The dice is cast. Decision is made. Come beyond Thursday. Hakainde Hichilema is President of the Republic of Zambia, 7th in line.
All right. So the UPND Alliance has on many occasions claimed that you are not violent. It's not a violent ensemble. So after the Kanyama incident, do you still maintain it's a violent-free alliance?
Well, even if you would want to allow your listeners to understand if we're violent or not, I'm sure you would place particular incidents and say, but you did this, you did that, you did that. How can you claim you're not violent? But I dare any journalist to come out and say, you did this, you did that. I always say this, and I'll repeat myself for the sake of the record. When you hear President Hakainde Hichilema's voice on radio, for example, like what happened in Pika, you will find that the PF cadres will go and ransack the radio station. Attacking the radio station, breaking expensive equipment, and in some of these cases, they are being led by a district commissioner who is a government head of department, a government head in that district, going to break the radio station. What is the offense? You are hosting Hakainde's voice here, even when it is over the phone and he's not even in the studio. Number two, just yesterday also, you saw what happened in Kasama. A lodge that hosted Hakainde Hichilema, a lodge, a public lodge, has been burnt. Why? By PF cadres. Why? Because they hosted Hakainde Hichilema. Roadshow, for example, we had in Mandevu.
Yes.
UPND is having a roadshow. PF comes in to try and stop it. A violence ensues, fights ensue. So all these speak to one thing. They are the aggressors, they are the instigators, and they are the perpetrators of violence. So if violence has a name, its name is PF. If violence has a face, its face is PF. Why? Because you will never hear that President Lungu's voice is on radio and the UPND cadres have gone to break that radio station. Never. But it is for them. You will never hear that the PF are carrying out a procession and the UPND have gone to confront them because they are carrying out a campaign activity. Never. But for them, it is. You will never hear that the PF are holding a meeting at a member's house, private residence, and the UPND cadres have gone to provoke the situation at that private residence. Never. But for them, they will do so as they did in Chimwemwe and Kitwe, as they did in Kabwata here in Lusaka. So they are always the perpetrators of violence. We are on the receiving end. And I repeat to say this. There is no violence between the PF and the UPND. But there is violence on the UPND by the PF.
All right, still on violence. The PF accuses you of fanning violence, as you've just spoken about, whereas you claim to be victims of PF violence. So how many times have you reported the PF to the police, and what has been the response?
Well, all incidences that occur are reported to the police, and the police do nothing about it. Like, which policeman would dare investigate, call out, or arrest a PF cadre today? I think you saw what happened in Sesheke. President Lungu went there and said, there will be no political party that will be allowed to bring in cadres from outside Sesheke. This is what brings violence. Davis Mwila, SG, went there and retorted the president's remarks. No bringing cadres, especially from Lusaka, to come here. They bring problems. Then, as he leaves, Lusaka busloads, intercity busloads, go into Sesheke. And they cause mayhem. They cause havoc there. Now, what do the police do? There was a presidential directive. Don't allow these people to do that. So they move in. They discipline the chaps. And you saw what the great Shapa Kunguma and his men in uniform did to the notorious American whatever boys or intercity boys there. The chaps were properly sorted. But what happened to Shapa? relieved, fired, retired in national interest for touching PF cadres. That was a message that was sent to the police, that if you touch a PF cadre, you are fired. So the police are scared now. They don't touch them. They just look at them. They have so many dockets and cases on PF cadres, which the police have basically put on ice. They can't act, because if you do so now, you are in trouble. But watch the space. Watch the space. Mulandu Suola. After Thursday, after swearing in of Hakainde Ichirem, you see how this same police will swing into action with call-outs now, saying, that day, remember, that day, remember. Now they'll face the law and they'll face the music. Today, they have so much impunity, such that they can even come to your farm plot and begin to demarcate it and sell plots. Right? You have your title deed, but they don't care. They are mighty PF cadres. You go to the police, the police will do nothing for you. They'll demarcate your farmland and sell plots in it. But don't worry, sanity is coming back. In fact, we're very happy with the deployment of soldiers on the streets, because these soldiers on the street will affect the notorious people. And the notorious people are the PF. The instigators of this lawlessness and violence are the PF. Yes. But they do so with impunity, because they can run over the police, they can tell off the police, they can shout at the police, but they can never dare run over our army officers. They can shout at our army officers. They can't tell off our army officers. So they will be caught up. It will not be long. By Monday, latest, I don't want to be like Antonio say, cut my manhood, but by Monday, latest, you will hear PF crying that the soldiers are bringing problems in the streets. No.
We're not cutting anything from you, don't worry.
Yeah.
So what next for the UPND alliance? You claim to be inoffensive as a party, as an alliance. Would you say the ECZ has been professional in handling this and other electoral matters after being banned indefinitely?
This has been the West Electoral Commission of Zambia. I don't really feel sorry for people like Patrick and Shindano, because he has proved from day one that he is not the man for the job. He may have done well for himself when he was at Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, but since he moved to the Electoral Commission of Zambia, he has proved beyond reasonable doubt that he's not the man for the job. I think he has espoused a high level of incompetence at the job. But I feel sorry for Judge Esau Chulu, because Judge Esau Chulu is a seasoned man, and he's presiding over an electoral commission whose credibility has seriously been injured. An electoral commission whose handling of affairs has left a bitter taste in many a political player, such that only the PF can praise them. But all the other political players feel seriously mishandled, and seriously feel that this particular electoral commission is working in cahoots with the Patriotic Front to advantage them to win and disadvantage the others so that others can lose. It feels like you are in a game of football and the referee is playing as a 12th man on the other team after handing down 4 red cards on your team. So you can imagine that you are playing a game. You are 11-11, but for you, they have taken out 4. Okay?
Yes.
Then after taking out 4, the referee joins the other team and they become 12 against you. This is how it feels like. The Electoral Commission of Zambia has lamentably failed the credibility test. Shindano has gone down in the annals of history as the worst CEO that the Electoral Commission of Zambia has ever employed. He is undemocratic. The decisions he has passed, the pronouncements he has made have all but left much to desire.
Arising from the violence that claimed 2 lives in Kanyama, the Commander-in-Chief directed the Defense Forces to help the police maintain peace ahead of the next week's polls. What is your comment on this directive, and do you as an alliance welcome the deployment of the armed forces? I know you touched a bit on this, but I need you to explain specifically on this directive and your reaction to them being on the ground.
Well, the army are very welcome to be on our streets. Only that it is for us now as political players to urge the citizens to realize that they are there to offer protection and not to intimidate the citizens. Also, that the citizens must feel safe, that for as long as you are law-abiding, really you have no business fearing the army officers on the streets.
Right.
It is the PF who will face the wrath of those army officers on the streets, because the PF misbehave. So for us, that is welcome development. Of course, we feel that the president's decision to unleash the army onto the street was a little bit premature, but it remains welcome. But at the same time, it is an indictment on Inspector General of Police Kanganja that he has lamentably failed. The president firstly warned him that he has espoused serious incompetence and that so far he has failed, and gave him, how many months was that? 3 or 6 months contract?
I think it was 6 months.
6 months. Gave him 6 months to pull up his socks. Clearly, when the president turns around and brings the army to do police work, he has said to Antu Kanganja, you have failed completely. So, for us, this shows that the police have failed, like we have all been saying that the police are failing, but also it is good and suffices to state that for as long as you are law-abiding, as we all are, we have nothing to fear about the army officers on the streets. They are welcome, and let the people not feel intimidated by them. Let us go out and vote in peace.
All right, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll discuss the issue concerning the ECZ and their chartered aircraft.
We never forget that you're important. That's why we talk to you. Capital FM, the talk leader.
Welcome back to Capital FM on 99.7. This is Chanda on the big issue with the UPND Alliance Media Director, Mr. Thabo Kawana. We are discussing all things politics and the run-up to the elections. This is Capital FM 99.7. The lines are open throughout the show, so please get in touch with us. You can give us a call or send us a WhatsApp message on 0761 997 997 for comments, questions, contributions, and general inquiries. You can send us an email on marketing@capitalfm997.com. On all social media, our handle is @capitalfm99.7. We are streaming live on the website. Just log on to capitalfm997.com and click on Listen Live. If you are on the go, you can listen to us by downloading the Radio Garden and Mangotainment apps and search for Capital FM 997.com. Sorry, 997. Pardon me, Capital FM 99.7. Thabo, the ECZ. You're very much. You have issues concerning their behavior, as you clearly stated in the recent response to the questions that we've spoken about. I want us to discuss the chartered plane. So the chartered plane from Dubai carrying election materials arrived with what has been termed as foreign materials, raising suspicion among stakeholders, political parties and other CSOs. What is the UPND Alliance's position on this?
Well, a cargo plane carries with it cargo.
Yes.
To deliver to various destinations, various cargo for different people, companies and organizations. That's a commercial cargo plane. However, when you charter a plane, it means that you are totally in charge of the manifest, and you decide what goes on that plane, and only you decide that. Therefore, nothing meant for somebody else who is not a consignee will be found on that plane. The explanation that was cargo for a company here in Lusaka that found itself on that plane cannot hold, because that company, their cargo should have come like any other cargo through the commercial route.
Mm-hmm.
That was a chartered plane. And therefore, what was there is manifest that was authorized by the organization that chartered, and the consignee there is the Electoral Commission of Zambia.
Yes.
So this tells you again that they are working in cahoots with the Patriotic Front, because those satellite phones can only mean one thing. It can only allow us to arise suspicion in us to begin to believe that the Electoral Commission of Zambia is working together with the Patriotic Front, who may ensure that on the election day, running through into results, there will be a problem of internet and network. And only those with satellite phones will be able to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So this can raise that suspicion. We don't know if that is what it is for a fact, but we can suspect that. Because when Electoral Commission is asked, what is this doing on your consignment? They say, we don't know. How did it get here? They say, we don't know. And that's why I'm telling you that Nshindano is the worst CEO that has ever come to the Electoral Commission of Zambia. And he has espoused high levels of incompetence. Because if this is not incompetence, please tell me what is. That you can charter a plane and it brings things that you didn't buy. It brings things that you didn't assign to it. Because that's fraud on the part of the Emirates. That they have used a chartered plane to sneak in material for others who paid them to use the commercial route, but they decide to put them on the chartered plane, thereby chewing the money meant for the commercial route by bringing it in for Mahala Day.
Okay.
Secondly, when you bring in things in this country and they remain undeclared on arrival, it is the duty of the authorities like ZRA to impound those that consignment and destroy it. They impound it, the matter goes to court, a certificate of destruction is given, and the merchandise is destroyed. But it took some days before somebody stood up and said, actually, it is our consignment. But what is it doing on ECZ materials? They said, we don't know, even us. Therefore, we pledge that the material will remain at the airport until after elections. That is not enough. What we should do is collect all those cell phones, all those satellite phones, and destroy them. So when they are collected, the issue is taken before the court, a certificate of destruction is issued, and they are destroyed in the presence of stakeholders. Those people who bought that consignment will take the court order and the destruction certificate and take it to Emirates to say, because you are the ones who put our consignment on a chartered flight,
yes,
it ended up being suspected and it got destroyed. We are claiming for compensation.
Okay.
So they take that route, not for them to claim that we shall wait. There's nothing the PF can do that you can trust. Or there's nothing that anybody who has anything to do with PF can do that can be trusted. Therefore, that consignment must be destroyed.
So as of today, the 6th of August, have you officially engaged ZRA on this? And when do you establish, and have you physically seen that these are satellite phones? And who has physically come to claim that they are their goods?
There's some bogus company that, okay, let me not call it bogus, let me take my words back. There's some company that has come up and said Infinix something that deals in phones.
Yes.
And they have claimed the phones. They said, no, these are our phones. We bought them. I think they said from the UK or something. I forget. That, but the consignment found itself on on the ECZ materials, and we can explain that because Emirates has to do the explanation.
Yes.
So we have established that there are satellite phones, and we have established an alleged owner here in Zambia.
Yes.
But this is not the first time we're having this kind of claims. Remember that first we had 48 houses that had no owner. Then later on, an owner showed up and said they are mine.
Yes.
Then as the process was going on in court, the owner says, I've just remembered they are not mine. It's the same thing with these same phones. Before you know it, when this matter gets hot, you hear people saying, let's see, others, no, ours were Motorola. So all we are asking is that for the sake of relieving doubt in all the players' minds, those consignment must be destroyed.
Okay, let me ask you, I don't know if I'll push you to the corner on this, but I'm going to attempt. So simply put, simple definition is air charter is a business of renting an entire aircraft as opposed to individual aircraft seats or compartments.
Yes.
All right. Are we together?
Yes.
Fantastic. So first question is, were you made aware of the terms of chartering the aircraft which brought the election materials?
No, those are details that no third party can ever be aware of.
Okay.
What we are aware of is that it was chartered to bring ECZ material. Now, when you have chartered to bring material for ECZ, it is material for ECZ only. Secondly, when it landed and those things were spotted, the ECZ officials at the airport on the scene were asked, what is this? And they said, we don't know.
Okay.
How has this found itself here? We don't know. You know, it was almost like you're watching 40 Towers and you're that guy Manuela saying, I know nothing. But ECZ, what is I know nothing? So this tells us that it was chartered and it has merchandise that was not on the manifest.
All right. So, is the ECZ particularly to blame for this problem? You had a representative in Dubai. Wasn't he or she supposed to monitor the loading of the materials and ensure that only election materials were loaded on the plane?
No, we cannot be blamed because all monitors that were in Dubai insisted that they must go and witness the loading of the material on the plane.
Yes.
And the authorities there, together with the printer and ECZ and all, said you can't, because now going to monitor how we are putting on the plane is a security breach here in Dubai and it can't be allowed. Therefore, you can monitor Kwanu as these things are being taken out of the plane. So as the plane is touching down and the things are being offloaded, you can go and monitor. But from our side here, it is a security breach. You cannot monitor what we are putting on the plane. So what were they to do?
All right. We're going to go on a break pretty soon, but I've got a quick question for you. Quick response. You've established the nature of the materials that were on the plane and what clearly happened between the time they were loading, as in there was a breach. There would have been a breach if you had gone there. What would you like to be done immediately as at today concerning these materials? What will give you satisfaction?
I repeat, destruction of the same.
Okay. Have you gone thus far? Have you gone in that direction?
Well, there's correspondence doing the rounds. There are talks doing the rounds. We just see what it will end up being. But what will satisfy all the players is that the goods must be destroyed. And the owner cannot claim to suffer loss because such a loss will be atoned for by Emirates, who will have no choice but to compensate the owner for having assigned his consignment on a chartered plane when he is not a party to the charter of the said plane.
Thabo, how firm are you on this happening? How firm are you on it? When do you want this to be actioned? What is actually happening on the ground right now?
We wanted it done yesterday.
Yes.
Of course, we wanted it done yesterday. We've remained resolute on it. We have asked that it be done. But remember, we are not authorities. So we can't do it ourselves. If we do that, then we break the law. But we can urge them. And in urging them, it is up to them now to follow the laws of the country,
yes,
and ensure that they satisfy the players. That is why I'm saying, even for distraction, it's not a question of going to pick and destroy. It is a question of going through a court process, and a court order is given, and a distraction order is given, and a distraction is conducted in front of all stakeholders. Failure to that, doing anything else, especially by non-state agents, will be breaking the law, and we don't want to break the law.
All right, so your Secretary General, Mr. Batuke Menda, has claimed that the Zambia Air Force is denying the UPND Alliance President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, the opportunity to use our Zambian airspace. How is this being done? And please explain clearly.
Well, what happens is when you charter a plane, you file in what you call a flight plan.
Yes.
The flight plan indicates where you're going to fly from, what time, what area, what air altitude you are going to use. And it is approved by the Civil Aviation Authority in conjunction with the Zambia Air Force, who are basically the owners of the airspace in Zambia. That is a given, and it's never a problem. But because it is Hakainde Hichilema, even when the pilots have gotten pre-clearance, the moment some people realize it is Hakainde on that plane, the clearance is cancelled. There are many instances where they have cancelled, despite having earlier issued the clearance, they have cancelled because they found out it's Hakainde. The idea is to try and stop him from moving, whether by road, sea, or water, or river, or air. The idea is to stop him. And state institutions are working in cahoots to do that.
But Mr. Hichilema flew to Eastern Province, where he was even detained or blocked at the airport by the police. Are you not just exaggerating the situation and
it's not been exaggerated
in regard to the airspace?
No, it's not been exaggerated. We are merely stating what it is. Even the time he was going to the Eastern Province, if you remember, there was a delay to take off, because then they were told, you have no clearance. And the pilot said, but we have clearance. Oh, that one has been cancelled. And Hakainde was already on the plane. And he declared, I'm not going anywhere. I'll sit here, and if you're not going to sort this out, we are going to take off. And since the rules are that when you are in airspace and you have no authority, they shoot you down, Hakainde told them, I'm prepared to be shot down, because you cannot continue to hinder my movements like this. So he flies out.
Yes.
He lands in Eastern Province. The police have the audacity to tell him, you can't move here, you're not welcome. How do you run a country like that? But we thank God, it's only 6 days. You know, this from today going forward,
yes,
it's no longer a period of whining and crying and complaining. We are in a celebratory mode because we already know that we have won these elections. The people of Zambia have liberated themselves. A good government is coming in place. A good system is being put in place. And therefore, all this that they are doing is too little, too late. And like we always say, this too shall come to pass. Yesterday, they blocked, arrested, and there was violence surrounding our running mate, Mtarita Lumango,
yes,
resulting in the arrest of President Chikuse and others. Another official remains unaccounted for. President Mutati in Wansha also was harassed, being basically pikimushed by a policeman, and all these things that are happening. It is darkest before dawn. It is darkest before dawn. But all this shall pass. Come Thursday, Zambia will be reborn. it will be a new country under the 7th Republican President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, and the UPND Alliance government. Then Zambians can breathe. Then Zambians can sing in unison to stand and sing of Zambia, very proud and free, not as it is now. We stand, we even fail to sing in Jaratinyogola of Zambia. We are nowhere near being proud. We are nowhere near being free. But that day is coming as we shall sing our national anthem on Saturday next week at the inauguration of President Hakainde Hichilema.
Sing we shall. So the ruling party accuses you of lacking a plan for Zambia. So please share the pillars of the UPND Alliance Manifesto and how this document addresses the many challenges facing this nation.
Well, the challenges facing this nation include, among others, unemployment, a broken economy, broken down systems, because the economy anchors everything. So when the economy is broken, everything is broken. Education is broken. Health is broken. Agriculture is broken. So what does the UPND manifesto answer to this? Number one, in agriculture, we are coming to ensure that we come and implement an agriculture support program that will make programs such as the FISIP only but a component within the whole spectrum of the ASP. Under our government, we will ensure that the cost of production is lowered by making sure that the input costs are lowered, such as fertilizer. Fertilizer is going to move from 900 kwacha to 250 kwacha, and I can see your lips cracking, wanting to say how. Here's how. The fertilizer is brought into the country from out there.
Yes.
And landed at your doorstep at 900 kwacha because of the middleman. This chronic, crooked, patriotic front Kerenka middlemen who put serious markups so that then the procurement process is elongated from the point of buying in the foreign country to moving it within that country, moving it to our country, moving it within our country, and sending it to government at the end of the day within our country. There are so many patriotic front Kerenka middlemen here that are making a markup. And this markup is then passed on to the consumer, the end user, who ends up buying a bag worth 250 kwacha at 900 kwacha. We are coming to get rid of all these kerenkas. No middlemen. We are going to make the procurement process shorter so that then the bag lands at the end user's doorstep at 250. But these people don't know agriculture. We're going to run agriculture as a business, because agriculture is a business and they know nothing. So we are going to bring more farmers on board under the agriculture support program like we have on FISIP. More farmers will be put on board. But the idea is to build their capacity, not to keep them perpetually dependent on the government system. So more will be brought on board, capacity built and wind off, so that then we have room to bring a bit more. Those that are worn off, again, it's not just a question of winning them off and leaving them. We also have for them other programs within the agriculture spectrum, such as access to cheaper money, because farmers will also want to have businesses within the farming spectrum, but require capital. And it's not just a question of capital, but they require cheap money that they can access. And when they access that money, they're able to expand on their businesses. We are going to emphasize on value addition, so that even what we are taking out of the country is not raw maize. It is finished products such as mealie meal, cornflakes, stock feed, animal feed, and so on. That's what will go out using.
That is already happening, except for the cornflakes.
It's not happening.
Except for the cornflakes.
No, it's not happening, my friend. What is happening is that the farmer gets a raw deal. The PF cadres buy the mealie meal, the maize from the farmers cheap. Then the PF cadres are the ones who export the raw maize and make millions of kwacha. The PF cadres are the ones who export the mini meal and make millions of kwacha. And the actual farmer, he is not making anything. We are going to change that.
Okay, that's the first pillar. What other pillars do you have?
Then we come to health. We are going to ensure that in the health facilities, there are medications. But as we go to medication, the first thing that a doctor needs to do in order for him or her to arrive at what medication you need is diagnosis. And that's where we are lacking. We do not have equipment in our hospitals that can help our doctors scientifically diagnose what is wrong with you and therefore pinpoint the exact medication you need. So even in the event that you have got disease A, which presents like disease B, they may prescribe medicine for disease C. Now, with the correct equipment for diagnosis, it means that you are able to diagnose the correct diseases with the people. Number one, put equipment. Number two, put medicines in the hospitals. Number three, ensure that they are adequately staffed, meaning all these nurses that remain unemployed, the doctors that remain unemployed will be a story and a thing of the past under the UPND government, which is just basically next week, because we are going to make sure that with an improved economy, improved coffers, improved liquid for the government, all these people will be employed and deployed. That's under health. Education. The first thing we have done is to realize that every Zambian deserves to have a right to education. President Hakainde Hichilema himself and many of his colleagues today are where they are, and they are people to look at, marvel, and emulate. But these are village boys, born and bred in the village, went to school barefoot, grew up in the most poverty situations, but today they are looking after thousands, almost millions of Zambians that work under them because they are moguls and they have done well for themselves. Why? Because of education. Not just education. They realize that they got the education themselves free of charge. That is why the UPND manifesto is very clear. There will be free education starting next week. There will be free education for grade 1 to grade 12. I repeat, free education starting next week from grade 1 to grade 12. The only time you are going to have to pay for yourself is through university. And you want to tell me, I can see your lips again saying, but university is the one which is expensive. How will we afford? No, we got this. Even under the university, if you are unable to afford to pay, you then apply for a student's loan and government will pay for you, but will deduct from you, because this is a responsible government. As soon as you finish your studies, you will be employed and we will recover the money that we gave you as a student loan so that we are able to give other students that are coming on board. This is how you run a country. So they know nothing. We have to show them how it is done. And that we will do starting next week. So the Zambian people should know that starting next week, the farmer will begin to feel farming as a business and realize profit. The health workers will begin to feel what it means to work in an environment where everything is provided for, including medication for their patients. The people of Zambia know that they are going to enjoy free education from grade 1 to grade 12 starting next week after elections.
So you've mentioned agriculture, health, and education. You're not going to explore other areas of the economy.
Please bring it on. I just forget what you had lined up.
I needed all the pillars.
Yeah, what other pillar?
You mentioned 3 pillars here.
Yes.
I don't think this country is only going to run on the successful agriculture, health, and education. Let's talk about what you're going to do about the economy.
Yes. What we're going to do about the economy is to fix it. How are we going to fix it, you may ask? To fix the economy is to ensure that the fundamentals are put in place. Fundamentals such as the inflation rate will be brought down to single digit. Fundamentals such as the exchange rate will be brought down to single digit. What this does is that it helps to ensure that the buying power of your people increases because it brings down the cost of merchandise. Not this gonga arrangement that you have under PF, where they get dollars and flood them into the system to try and give the dollar a fake appearance that it has appreciated when in fact it hasn't. That is why today, despite the dollar moving from 22 to 18, that is quite a leap. But your fuel remains the same. All your merchandise remains the same because nobody can get cheated. The business community knows this is elections, this is fake, it remains unreal. Under a real circumstance, if you have a leap from 18 kwacha to 19 kwacha of a dollar, your fuel increases. Just at $1 movement. Here you have got 22 to 18. Nothing has moved downwards. Nothing. Because everyone knows this is fake. We are coming to give you the real one so that you understand that we are going to run a government that will have single-digit kwacha to dollar rate or foreign exchange rate, single-digit inflation rate, therefore affordable food, affordable merchandise in the economy for the people of Zambia, and thereby increase their buying power. For the civil servants, we're going to ensure that we review their conditions of service so that the salary they get becomes meaningful. So that when you want to buy, for example, cement and some blocks at the end of every month, you do so without stress, without going to Kongola and drama. As it is now, the civil servants are in this debt arrangement, and this government wants to hoodwink them that we are going to do debt swap, but all this is kelenka. It's a gonga arrangement. They have found themselves like that because the conditions are terrible, and for them to move from one month end to another, they must find themselves borrowing money. So the economy will be fixed by this UPND alliance government. What else? Good governance. We are going to ensure that the power is handed back to the police. The police must be police for everyone. There must be Zambia police, and they must protect lives and property for everybody. Not like we have earlier explained, where Zambians are now suffering while the police are looking on. Your farmlands are being demarcated by cadres. There's nothing your police can do. You have got issues where cadres break the law with impunity. There's nothing the police can do. They drive vehicles that are unregistered. There's nothing the police can do. They can drive a vehicle that has no fitness, no insurance, no nothing. All it has is a chitenge for PF on the dashboard. No policeman will stop it. They are just falling short of saluting it. All that is coming to an end. We are going to ensure that we correct these things.
All right. Before we digress too much, on the issue of the kwacha, Mr. Haka in the HLMA is on record saying the kwacha will appreciate a few hours after he is sworn in as president. On the other hand, the UPND alliance does not believe in the current appreciation of the local currency. Please comment on why there are divergent views on this from within the same grouping.
Well, they are not divergent. How divergent are they? Number one, President Hakainde Hichilema makes it clear that when he wins, the kwacha will appreciate. He says that if he is sworn in at 10 hours, by 14 the kwacha will appreciate.
Yes.
The only thing I disagree with him there is that if he's sworn in at 10 hours, the kwacha will appreciate at 10:30. That much I can tell you, because appreciation of the currency is driven by sentiments on the market. So you've got all these investors sitting on the fence and wishing that if only this man or this group can take government, then we can put in our money because we know that we have a stable policy framework. We have stability in mining policies, stability in taxation. Then we put in our money because that represents predictability. And therefore there's a rush for investment. That makes the kwacha appreciate. Everywhere you go in the world, currencies are affected by sentiments. The moment, for example, if you take it far away, the moment Biden won the election, two
When he beat Trump.
The index there increased. When Brexit happened, the index in the UK increased, but maybe that's far away. So let's bring it home. Just here in South Africa, there was a president who was believed to be so corrupt and ran the country with corrupt families and elements, Guptas and so on, all these stories doing the rounds. The moment a businessman coming from the business community, a business mogul in Ramaphosa became president, the rand appreciated immediately. We now have a government whose corruption reputation is there for all of us to see, whose reputation with the business community is there for all of us to see. Then there's this man who's becoming the 7th Republican president of the Republic of Zambia, who's a business mogul. He's seen by the business community as a man who understands business, who's seen by the farmers as a man who understands farming, who's seen by the youth as a man who understands the value of education, who's seen by the whole world as a man with integrity, is coming in. Just that value, that sentiment. By 10:30, the Kwacha will appreciate. You can cut. Let's keep, maybe cut my shirt. You can cut my shirt. Because I've seen Antonio, there are so many posters around telling you, well, we are ready.
Very interesting response. Okay, right, moving on from there then. What will the government of the UPND Alliance do to address the high cost of living and general unemployment in the country, especially for the youth?
Well, when you get the fundamentals of the economy correct, that lowers your cost of living because it makes food affordable and everything else affordable for the people and increases their buying power. And as far as employment is concerned, the sectors that will really reckon the people, especially the young ones, as far as employment is concerned, is in agriculture. Now, agriculture is very big. It's not just a question of farming. There's agriculture, there are industries to be created in value addition. There's, for example, the National Service that will heavily be involved in agriculture that will have to recruit. We are going to create an environment where industry, commerce, trade and industry will be increased to a point where employment will be available. So you have got the mainstream employer government itself ensuring that it assumes or accepts all these young people that remain unemployed, like the 50,000 teachers that remain unemployed and deployed. Government will suck them in, the nurses, the doctors, and so on. But then in the private sector, by ensuring that we have all these industries that are coming to work in value addition, we are ensuring that people's jobs are created in that area. And then you have got spiral jobs being created, smaller industries being created out of bigger industries. So the employment opportunities are there for all. As the UPND government takes place from next week, you will begin to see how now business and employment opportunities will begin to open up to the young people. Very soon, and very, very soon, we'll have a nation that is extremely productive. Right now, this nation is engulfed in a whole lot of violence because it is a young nation. It's got young people. It's got a lot of energy. But how do we expend that energy? It is now being expended in being abused by these Kerenka politicians in the PF who are making the young people begin to engage in violence. We are coming to create opportunities of employment for the young people so that they expend their valuable energies in production of the nation.
All right. I'm going to talk about something that you really are dying to explore. The UPND Alliance, all right? Let's talk about your plans to fight against corruption, all right? What hope should the Zambians have in the fact that you will fight corruption? How are we going to do it? Give us hope.
Firstly, because the individuals that are in the alliance have demonstrated in their previous lives that they are not corrupt people. None of them is a person you can point at and say, this one is corrupt. Have you ever heard that President Nassar Musoni has been called by the Anti-Corruption Commission? Questioned by ZP or DECO Anti-Corruption Commission? Have you ever heard the same of KBF, of Felix Mutati, of President Shimunza, of President Chikuse, of Vice President Lumango, or any of the players in the alliance? Never. Have you, most importantly, ever heard that President Hakainde Hichilema has been called by the Anti-Corruption Commission or the Drug Enforcement Commission to answer questions surrounding corruption or money laundering or proceeds of or properties suspected to be proceeds of crime? Never. That's who we are, men and women of integrity. But you just have to look on the other side. Campaigning daily, this one come here, Fumiaku Unima helicopter. No, we have to talk.
Let's focus on what you do as UPND.
I am telling you,
yes,
I'm not mentioning anybody's name.
Yeah, but let's focus on what the alliance will do. Forget about the other side.
What the alliance will do is that it will not buy helicopters.
Okay.
There will be no minister in the alliance who will buy helicopters. No corruption. There will be no minister in the alliance who will buy expired drugs. No corruption. There will be no minister in the alliance who will end up with property suspected to be proceeds of crime. No corruption. There will be no minister in the alliance who will be an agent of tribal hate speech and garbage, yet is a convict himself, convicted of corruption, who will go around trying to convince people to vote for the alliance. There will be no such thing. We are going to fight corruption in all its forms.
How are you going to do that?
Two things. Number one, through pronouncement. Number two, through practice. Because it has to start with a pronouncement. The president and his team have to pronounce that there's zero tolerance to corruption. Now, pronouncements must be escorted by actions, and they must show it through their actions that there will be no tolerance towards corruption. And that's what will happen. So in our government, if any of these civil servants feel they can continue doing what they've been doing under PF, in our government, you will not only be fired, but you will be arrested and prosecuted. So there will be nothing like the stories we are hearing now, where somebody works for the government 35 years, giving it your all, leaving nothing in the tank, and you're supposed to get your pension, and your file goes missing. And they tell you to find your file, you must give us something. We hear you and our government that you are doing that to retirees. You are gone, fired, arrested, and prosecuted. There will be zero tolerance to corruption.
Okay. I want to focus on the leader of the opposition. Whether it be you or whoever comes into government next week. As the official opposition, don't you think it would have been better if your leader was part of parliament, sitting in the house and deliberating motions for or against, as opposed to the leader of your alliance being out and giving directions to the people sitting in parliament? How is your comment? What's the comment on that?
Oh, you lose me, because the president, yes, he's a member. He's a member of the National Assembly, yes, but doesn't sit.
I'm talking about the member, the opposition person. Yeah.
This is our system. Oh, you mean that currently, as opposition, we should have had a leader who is in parliament?
Yeah, my question is not you should have. I'm saying my question is simple. It's, don't you think it would have been better if the leader of the opposition, all right, was also part of parliament, sitting in the house and deliberating motions for or against, as opposed to opposition leader being outside and then remotely giving directions?
It is better to be outside and giving directions remotely, because you are the leader of the opposition and you have your troops in parliament. And you have, as leader of opposition, you are not just a leader of the MPs. You are a leader of the opposition political party, which survives in different spheres. Therefore, you run the party from your party office, and you're looking at many other facets within the country, not just parliament. Parliament is just but one of the facets within the whole spectrum of the political party. And therefore, they receive instructions of what to do in parliament, just as the one who receives instructions on what to do at the ward, at the branch, and at the section level. So a president need not be one who is in parliament, because then you are a president of MPs sided, with the MPs. You must be a president that has a stealth position, that you are able to look down on everybody and provide the much needed leadership. That when the clarion time comes and everybody tends to look at the leader, we all look in one direction and up to the leader without necessarily looking for him in a section such as parliament. So no, sir. It is better to have a leader who is not part and parcel of parliament. Because when you form government, the system still is the same. You remain in State House. You are not in Parliament every day. You join them during the National Assembly. But when it's Parliament, you remain in State House. So you would have practiced what you are ready for. And that's what Hakainde is coming to do.
All right, so that is the one that suits you. Let's talk about
that's what suits everybody.
No, I was looking at it from the perspective of how it works nicely in our neighbors here, South Africa, where the opposition leaders are in parliament, so they're able to confront issues directly.
Yeah, it depends on what you call nicely. I mean, I see the kind of chaos that goes on between Cyril Ramaphosa and Julius Malema and all that. That's like okay for them, but for us, that culture cannot be tolerated. That you see how Malema talks down Ramaphosa in parliament. You try that in Zambia. You can't do that. And just imagine having a president in that parliament and you're arguing with Bomani, Skazwe. Really, I mean, let's do things.
I will not go there.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about COVID-19 now. How would you have handled the COVID-19 management process if this pandemic happened under your watch?
Far much better than they have mishandled it. We would have ensured that measures were taken in place. The 5 golden rules would have been employed almost immediately, and we would have done rules for everyone, not selective rules. Application would have been equitably across board, and not sharing, and not making rules for others while others is not. And like it is now,
yes,
we would have made sure that out of a population of 18 million Zambians, at least 10 million Zambians would have been vaccinated.
Yes.
Not as it is now, that the vaccination, out of 18 million Zambians, we are still below 2% of vaccination since the program began. Why? Because even the donor community does not have confidence that when they give us the dosages in the kind of quantities that they ought to, we'll put them to good use. There's simply zero trust and zero capacity. The same donors that are giving us Johnson & Johnson,
yes,
the same Chinese that are giving us the other one, are giving the same to Namibia and so on. But look at the numbers that Namibia is pushing. Look at the numbers that they're pushing from Johnson & Johnson. Look at the numbers that the American government is pushing in Namibia. Compare those to the numbers they're pushing here. It tells you that they are doing it because they're humans and out of humanitarian efforts, but they know that this government is not a kind of government that will do the correct thing. For them, it's vaccinations. For these vaccinations to move, we need to. It can't work. But watch the space. From next week, under the leadership of the UPND Alliance, many Zambians will get vaccinated with the correct kind of vaccination.
Okay. Since you are saying you prefer for it to be mandatory, and to a large extent I agree with you, I'm going to read something that has happened in America. On Thursday, President Joe Biden announced that all federal employees be required to get vaccinated or be subjected to weekly COVID-19 testing. He urged everyone to get vaccinated as soon as possible. Now, on top of this, I think, if I remember correctly, he has said that some companies or businesses will not be allowed to do any work with the federal government if their employees are not vaccinated. And I think to some extent they are giving out $100 bills as payment or inducement. All right. And then Google and Netflix have also, you know Google and Netflix.
Yes.
I think they've also directed that all crew for Netflix must be vaccinated and all workers at Google must be vaccinated. Why do you think this is very important? Do you think we should do the same? We should go that route and just make sure there's mandatory vaccination?
Yeah, you see, what we need to do is take the same route per se, but also ensure that it is not really a forcing matter, but we make it semi-mandatory in the sense that for you to do this, you must have this. For you to get this, you must have this. So unless you don't want to get this, you don't need to get that. So you can see that even in the States, they've gone to an extent where they've said, get yourselves vaccinated. All health workers be vaccinated. And as a matter of fact, when you come for vaccination, you get $100 bill.
Yes.
Just to sort of entice. Then now they say, the way you have got in Zambia, you can't do business with the Zambian government if you do not have a ZRA tax clearance.
Or not registered with NEMA.
Or not registered with NEMA and so on. Yeah. So even COVID will get to an extent where you can't do business with government if you're not COVID vaccinated. Now, you see, this COVID vaccination is meant to protect our people. It is meant to protect ourselves. So I don't know why we are begging people to get vaccinated or begging people to protect themselves. The hunger, the appetite is there for vaccination. What is not there now is the capacity of this incompetent government to provide the kind of numbers of vaccinations that can satisfy the people. And that is where when you see people lining up for vaccinations, all the centers that are pointed out as vaccination centers, they are always full and there's always confusion because the people want to get vaccinated. As we don't need to entice the people, you need to provide the vaccines, not necessarily entice the people, because the people have understood. We have seen how COVID has ravaged us. We have seen how COVID has taken away our friends, our relatives, our leaders, and we want to protect ourselves and in the process protect the people next to us.
Okay. Introduce an incentive to entice Zambians to get vaccinated. Akafumba urges government.
Yes.
What would you do?
Well, it's an incentive can be anything. For example, like the Americans have done, that you get $100 for every time for if you get the vaccination you get $100. So we are saying that the Zambian government should introduce incentives to entice Zambian people. Only that for now, it is also clear that the need for that inducement is not yet arisen because the appetite to get the vaccine is still high and government is even failing to meet that demand.
Okay, so the issue of going about as usual with a begging bowl, do you subscribe to this idea of going out to beg for vaccines all the time? All right, why have we not bought vaccines for ourselves from the onset?
Because you are broke. That's why you are basically paying government. You are broke. A proper government has to say, there are vaccines, can we place our orders, buy for our people. Like they've done in Namibia, for example. Like they've done in Botswana, for example.
Yes.
There's vaccines they have received and vaccines they have bought. For you, and me, all the vaccines we have, Nivopasio, Vopemba, Nansontirie, we don't have the money to buy vaccines. But that is why from next week you are putting in place a proper government that will have enough resources to be able to buy medicines for its people, and that includes vaccines.
All right. On the matter of public debt, and your leader being strong in understanding this particular subject, what is the position of the UPND Alliance on the recently announced and effected debt swap for public service workers as well as civil servants?
It's a gonga. It's a gonga. It is meant to hoodwink the civil servants into voting for them. It is nothing. It will amount to nothing but more debt and more stress for the civil servants, especially if a mistake is made that PF wins these elections. But we thank God there's no such mistake, and the PF are losing these elections, and therefore there will be no need for the civil servants to worry, because we are coming to get rid of their problem. They are in this problem because the government of PF put them in the problem. The civil servant went and borrowed money from the banks, knowing that their salaries will be deducted and money will be given to the banks, and the government swore as a guarantor. And they took money from the civil servant salaries but never gave the bank. The government basically, I'm trying to find a better word to use, because it may be rude if I say the government stole from its workers. So we cannot say they stole. Let's just say they got money that they are going to give the banks and they never gave the banks.
We can say they misapplied.
Yeah, no, let's just say Zinasova. So the civil servant now finds himself in a position where the bank deducts what he needs to be deducted at the end of the month, and the government deducts what it is claiming to be giving the bank when in fact not. So when a civil servant's salary is 7,000 kwacha, and he agreed that every month they will be deducting 2,500. So the bank deducts the 2,500, and the government at source also deducts the 2,500. When the government worker gets his salary net, all he's able to access is 2,000 kwacha, and that is the money he's supposed to survive, take his children to school, pay rentals, and do everything. It can't work, and they're in this difficulty because of the government. So the people who created the mess cannot claim to be the ones to create a solution. All they needed to do as government is to say, all the money we have deducted from you from the first time we started deducting, we are now going to remit it to the banks in a lump sum. What that will happen is that the banks will receive that money, and when they do their calculation, they find that actually you have finished paying your loan and there's some change. They even credit that money back to you, so the deductions immediately stop and you even have some more money. That's the solution. Solution number one that we have as an alliance and as espoused by President Hakainde Hichilema is that we're going to improve the conditions of service for the civil servants, so that they are able to use their salaries to do extracurricular arrangements without necessarily resorting to getting loans. So this government created this problem and now wants to lie that they have a solution to the problem when they do not have a solution to the problem. They have got more problems to add to this problem. But the civil servants will do well to ensure that they're voting a new government that will come and look at their problems anew. It is good that they announced this earlier last month, because when we told them this is fake, it won't happen, they thought we were lying. And when the civil servants went to the bank, they found that their monies are still being deducted. And the bank says, we know nothing. Look, you and us, we have an agreement about money. The only language you and us can talk is money exchanging hands. Anything rhetoric and political, go and deal with your politicians. Here it's about money. And the civil servants have realized that they've been gongered yet again.
Going forward, win or lose come 12 August 2021, what will you do about the following? The annual Auditor General's reports, the FIC reports, the ACC, and the Police Command. What will you do to ensure that these institutions are no longer subservient to the political machinations of the ruling party?
Number one, you must give autonomy to the police, allow them to do their work, give them a correct command. Because if you give the police a wrong command, the police will have leaders among them that will be giving unlawful instructions. And before the courts of law, unlawful instruction is not a defense. And therefore, if you carry out illegal instructions and you are caught up by the law, you still have to answer for yourself. So we will give the autonomy to the Zambia police, give them back their authority, take it away from the cadres, give it back to the police. Let police be police to be able to police all of us equitably. Institutions such as the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Financial Intelligence Center, and the Auditor General, these are institutions that can only do so much when you put in so much. What I mean is the funding that you give these institutions is the capacity with which you give them. So, for example, FIC, in this latest report, indicated that they received more than 2,300 reports, but they were only able to carry out investigations on 200 reports, a representation of 9%. Now, if you are going to have a situation where out of all the cases, they are only able to investigate 9% because of a lack of funds, then that tells you that you have already designed the institution to fail from the word go. So they have been starved by funds so that their capacity is dwindled. They remain incapacitated to do their work. We are going to fund them 100% to ensure that they do their work 100%. Auditor General's office is the same. The less money they are given, the less audit they can carry out, because they have to go around the ministries and around the foreign missions to do the audit on behalf of Parliament, so that the Parliamentary Accounts Committee is able to know how government resources are being used. But they are doing little work because the government is also deliberately giving them little money so that they have little work to do, and therefore they do not expose the rot. They do the same with the Anti-Corruption Commission, little money so that they don't expose the rot. They do the same with the Drug Enforcement Commission, little money, they don't expose the money laundering activities. But you can see that even in the FIC report, 9% of what was done, that 9% represented an embezzlement of 2.2 billion. At 9%. So imagine if they did 1,000 cases, how much money were we going to be looking at? But that is to say, if they did. But since they didn't do, we know that there were 2,000 reports that were made, and these are just the reported cases. Imagine how much money this country has lost. So this, our government, the UPND Alliance government, is going to ensure that state institutions such as DEC, FIC, ACC, all these are adequately funded to enable them do their work, thereby enhancing their capacity to deliver for the people of Zambia.
All right. Fraud at the Ministry of Health. How government spent 8.5 million on useless tricycle ambulances. There has been a problem with the Ministry of Health. How do you intend to sort out this rot? It is scandal after scandal at the Ministry of Health.
We are going to vaccinate the Ministry of Health. The problem there is big, it's endemic. We are going to vaccinate it. There will be an overhaul at the ministry, real overhaul. And we are going to give them a proper vaccination that corruption will never happen again at Ministry of Health. So, from next week, don't worry. You see, these were things we should have been talking about last year, but now I'm just reassuring the people of Zambia. From next week, as you line up for your COVID vaccination, we are going to vaccinate the Ministry of Health. Such will not happen. 8.5 million on such nonsense. The other time, it was drugs worth 6 million that never made it to their destination. The other time, it is drugs that are already expired and so on. The problem there is endemic. And you have seen that these things are happening, but you can change the ministers, things still happen. What you require there is a vaccination. The veins have to be properly treated. The disease must be properly rooted there. So we are coming to vaccinate the Ministry of Health.
Okay, now, at the risk of you being judge, jury, and executioner, how would you rate the PF government over the last 5 years?
Well, in the last 5 years, the PF government, I have to dig in my head to try and see if at least I can find something good they did.
Well, you're trying to unseat them. So in the last 5 years.
Yeah, but it's good to give kudos where they're due. But I'm trying hard. It's very difficult. All I'm seeing is toll gates. All I'm seeing is honeybee. All I'm seeing is scandal after scandal. Now, these guys have just basically failed. There's nothing they have done. Nothing.
On a scale of 1 to 10?
0.
It's not there.
0. There's nothing. There is no. I dare anyone to tell me that, but no, they have done this. I dare anyone to tell me that, no, this they have done. At least we can give them this. Which can we give them? Health? 0. No medicines, no nothing. Anything they can point at today and say, this is good. The Levi Mwanawasa Hospital, the Levi Mwanawasa School of Medicine, the auditorium there, it's done by China. So done by you? It's done by China. I'll tell you what you have done in the Ministry of Health as yourselves, as PF. That car park at UTH. Check in the Auditor General's report how many billions have been spent on that car park, which is failing to finish. That hospital, Ndeke Hospital in Kitwe, millions, it can't finish. In Chanda, in Mufurira District Hospital, millions, it can't finish. What have you done, PF? No, we've put 650 health posts, almost all of them, 0. Those prefabs are by India, not you. So what can you tell me that you have done? In education, I have 55,000 young people that are trained as teachers and they cannot be employed. So what have you done? 0. In infrastructure, but even when you're coming to Capital FM, as you pass Longekas, there's a nice flyover bridge. Who did it? India.
With the government, of course.
No, it's a loan to you and me. It's not the government. It's a loan to you and me. It's under the Lusaka decongestion project. That's a loan, you and me. And when you look at the original plans, you'll be shocked. You will find that the original plan meant that to decongest Lusaka, you needed upper deck roads. So that when you, for example, you're coming from Charleston to town, and your destination is town, you're not stopping Pamanda, Parkes, what. So when you go on top of the road, the way we drive when we are in India, when you go on top of the road, it is Kurula all the way up to town. That's where you're going to drop off from. Like that way you decongest the road, so that you leave the bottom road for only those that are branching off. Therefore you decongest. Aguyopanga mahambu. No tapanga. We have made the flyover bridge. Decongest Lusaka. So you tell me if those bridges have decongested Lusaka, because even when there's traffic over the hump. So what have we done? Nothing, but we have collected loans. So they should tell me what it is that they have done. Look at the road between Lusaka and the Copper Belt. It's back to being called a hell run. I just came back from Western Province. The road from Kafue National Park going to Mongo. Hell run. And I'm very happy that next week Mrs. Winner's job is finishing. So she may not have access to ZAF to go to Mongo, or Kwela Motoka to go to Mongo. I want to be told the day she's going to Mongo. I want to follow her behind. So that when they stop to say, aha, this is what we feel. 6 years you were vice president. But look at our road, Mama. Look at our road. All you did was brag that we have done roads. Which roads have you done?
As we come to the end of the show, why should Zambians vote for the UPND Alliance and Mr. Hakainde Hichilema as president on August 12th?
Because Zambians want a better life for themselves. Because Zambians want a better life for their children and their children's children. Because Zambians are tired of tyranny. Zambians are tired of cadarism. Zambians are tired of violence. Zambians are tired of joblessness. Zambians are tired of fake promises. And all they want is a government that is coming to do what it ought to do for its people. All they want is a leader for all Zambians, because they're tired of being separated on tribal grounds. There's all this tribal talk. They're tired of listening to people like the lunatic Chishimba Kambwili, who's a convict, a criminal, who's now out there fighting for freedom since he's out of prison on appeal, and telling people vote for this particular, so that maybe they can help him run away from his imprisonment. There's nothing like that. I have no apologies to make. Kambwili is a lunatic. He told me so himself, that if I ever go back to PF, I should be referred to as a lunatic. I'll never go back to PF. He's back to PF, and therefore he's a lunatic. I call him a criminal because he was charged with criminal offenses, taken before a competent court of law that found him guilty and sent him to prison. He's only out of prison because he's on appeal. Therefore, he's a criminal. There's a criminal in Eastern Province running the PF campaigns in Katere Kalumba, who was convicted for corruption and sent to prison, and the High Court upheld that conviction, sent him to prison, and he's on appeal now at Supreme Court level, waiting to be judged by the Supreme Court, and therefore he too is a criminal. I have no apologies to make that the PF is sending all these criminals to try and convince us to vote for them, when the Auditor General tells us that these people in this government are criminals.
Well, any last words now that you got a text?
Well, my last words is to the people of Zambia that we are winning these elections. We have won these elections. We thank God for that. I just want to take time to ask the people to celebrate this victory in a proper manner. Let us thank God for this victory of Hakainde Hichilema. Let's not do what the PF did. I think you saw that even when they won, they were basically undressing. There was violence towards the MMD. There were people undressing on the streets. There were people tearing their clothes, pouring alcohol and so on. One, without knowing the sense of occasion and just had a look at what was happening in Zambia, one could have sworn we were worshipping the devil. Zambians, that's not how we celebrate. This time around, let us celebrate by going on our knees at the announcement of the election victory of Hakainde and the UPND Alliance. Let us pray to God. Let's thank God. Let's praise and worship God, so that this government will be a good government. You can choose a government, but when God doesn't want the government, He will show you three signals. How does that happen? Number one, the way the government will run, it will show you that this one is not from God. You could see, even when there was all that halabaloo at the stadium, Edgar Lungu has won, he was given white doves, birds. Those birds represent Christ, love, peace, God. And you let them fly away. When they fly away, it's a symbol to show you that God is with you. He threw those doves in the air, which kuponya mwamba kukana kumbururuka tunyonyi kukana. It was at that point that we all should have known that this one is not from God. And this time around, you will see how the birds will fly off. Hakainde will not have to throw them. He just has to open his arms and they'll fly off. And when that happens, let us praise and worship the Lord and not begin to undress ourselves like we are worshiping the devil. Let's please God and not the devil at the victory of the UPND Alliance.
Mr. Thabo Kawana, UPND Alliance Media Director. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for coming to The Big Issue.
The pleasure is all mine.
On that note, we end this week's edition of The Big Issue, but always remember to wear a mask, observe social distancing, sanitize or wash your hands frequently to protect yourself and others from COVID-19. The Big Issue is out.